Now, as the UN's Climate Week continues in New York, a scientific review of the planet's health has concluded that it's far outside its safe operating space for humanity. A series of planetary boundaries drawn up by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Research is backed by a body of global leaders who call themselves the Planetary Guardians. Their health check claims that 6 of 9 key boundaries have now been breached. Well, 2 of the Guardians have been speaking to the BBC. That's campaigner Xiye Bastida and the former Irish President Mary Robinson. They sat down to speak to our business reporter David Waddell about the crisis they see.
The real problem is that we're reaching possible tipping points. And actually, the scientists don't want us to go there because they're not sure what nature will do. Nature is our friend at the moment. It's absorbing. The oceans are absorbing the carbon. The forests are absorbing the carbon. They're helping us. But if we put nature out of sync, which we're doing on these boundaries, then we might, see very real tipping points. The coral reefs might disappear. Permafrost, and there's a lot of it around the Arctic, etc., could melt and throw up not just carbon, but methane, which is more lethal in the short term.
What's the answer to this? How do we reverse the most worrying trends that you've identified?
We need to change the way in which we approach our electricity, our land use, protect what is already there with everything that indigenous communities are protecting. For example, indigenous communities protect 80% of the world's biodiversity, despite being 5% of the global population.
Madam President, what is the economic imperative for action on this today?
We are literally talking about whether we have a livable future, for goodness sake. At the moment, the B team of business leaders that I belong to, I'm not a businesswoman, I think I'm their moral conscience, but they estimate that we spend about $1.8 trillion a year on what is harming us. Subsidies for fossil fuel and bad land management. If we can switch a very significant proportion of that money, we can incentivize moving, especially developing countries, to affordable, accessible, clean energy. The fossil fuel lobby is fighting hard to slow it down, but it's happening.
This is a challenge for governments, for policymakers, but also for populations, for voters. How do you persuade populations everywhere that the sacrifices we all have to make for a healthy planet are worth the cost?
Helping nature is the biggest investment, if you want to see it in economic terms, that we could ever make. Because we come from the earth. We are alive because of all of the earth systems working together for us.
In a few words, please, how optimistic are you?
I've learned from Archbishop Tutu, I'm a prisoner of hope. We will work to make sure that this health check, which is quite alarming, also has a positive story of how we get there.
We owe it to our children, and we owe it to future generations. So hope is our responsibility. Optimism is as well our responsibility.